Hello guys and welcome to yet another Druid video. And yes, after the many requests, the time has come for voice commentary. Will it stay this way in future videos? I don't know, we will see. Anyhow, this video is about Druid and learning the basics of the class. For a long time, I was content with our written guide over at snowcross.com, which, by the way, you should totally check if you want to play Druid. But it was missing a crucial thing. That thing would be the very basics of Druid. You could read the entire guide and have somewhat of an idea what to do as a Druid, but you wouldn't know how to play. I want to keep this video as compact and easily digestible as possible, to not give new Druid players an information overload. It also means I am assuming some sort of autonomy from you in the form of having read the traits used in the build, because I will not go over them. If you are looking for any additional information, advanced tips or tricks, these can be found on the website in the lengthy written guides, or even in the boss video guides made by Alex and myself. I will leave a link to both of these in the description. If anything is still unclear, you can ask either in the comment section below, on our public Discord, or even in-game. Let's go over a quick summary of what this video will contain. First, we'll go over your role in a raid squad. Then we will talk about Celestial Avatar. And in the next section, we'll complete the Druid kit with spirits, utilities, and weapons. Finally, we'll have a word on positioning and awareness. So the Druid in a raid squad is a support healer. The healer part is pretty self-explanatory. You keep your squad members alive. But there's the part that seemingly gets skipped too often, support. It means you are not reduced to only a healer, and it is very important to understand that. One of the most powerful things you can do in a raid squad is compressing roles, and Druid is very strong because of this reason. It's a class that also brings a lot of supportive buff and boons to a 10-man squad. So, your role as a Druid is to create as much space as possible for the rest of the squad to be able to deal damage, meaning that you are in charge of keeping them alive, providing them boons, and dealing with mechanics as much as possible. Your priority isn't exactly in this order, but all of them are equally important and interact with each other. Here's a couple of examples to help you better understand. Failing to deal with the mechanic can result in a lot more incoming damage on your squad members, meaning that you will have a much harder time keeping them alive. To illustrate this is a Seeker on Guardian, the first boss of Wing 1. Not pushing them away from the group will result in a lot more incoming damage, in the best case scenario maybe a couple of downs, and a wipe in the worst case. Another example, not providing protection to your squad means that any damage taken will be much higher. It matters even on the seemingly most simple encounter. Here, you can see the ticking damage from Mersad Overseer with and without protection. Finally, another very important point is might. As Druid, you are in charge of capping might on the squad to 25 to enhance everyone's damage output. The more damage your squad deals, the faster the boss dies, the less time you spend being exposed to attacks, or you can also skip on some mechanics entirely if your squad DPS is high enough. In short, Druid has a lot of responsibilities, it is the lifeline of the group, but it also provides the squad with very powerful boons and buffs to boost the damage. Celestial Avatar, or CA for short, is the Druid class mechanic. A lot of your gameplay revolves around managing it, and when I say a lot, I mean that if you know how to manage it properly, you've got about 90% of your Druid gameplay figured out. It might seem a bit surprising that Druid boils down to this, but managing CA has a bit more depth than it seemed at first. Because of the Astral Force mechanic, basically your fuel for CA, the amount of time you can spend in CA and the amount of skills you can use is limited. The more time you spend and the more skills you use, the more Astral Force you need to generate again to be able to open it. Which isn't an issue if you're the only healer, but it can be very annoying if you have a low healer or if you're in the fight with low pressure. If you find yourself in a situation where you have trouble generating CA, what you want to do is place your spirit slightly outside of the group, then spawn your nature spirit next to your spirit stack. The passive health decay from all the spirits combined should give you enough heal ticks to fill up your CA. Then you have to make sure to keep them alive by applying regen on them. A good way to do this is to cast Staff 5 on top of your spirit stack. If you want more details on the Astral Force, I would suggest you to read on the wiki page, but in short, every of your healing and damage ticks will give you a little bit of Astral Force while your CA is not active. What does your CA do and what's in there? So your CA has pretty much everything. Ranged heals, Condi cleanses, burst heal, sustained heal, soft CC, and hard CC. Because of your trait, Crest of the Land, in the Druid trait line, your CS skills also apply Might. Since you are the Might source of your squad, you have to use your CS skills regularly to make sure Might stays capped at 25. That means, in a perfect situation with no major mechanic to heal, you start by going in CA, cap Might, which will also heal your squad, close your CA, and wait for it to come off cooldown to use it again and refresh Might. Now, this type of situation is pretty rare, and because your CA holds most of your healing kit, you want to make sure that when you close it, putting it on the 10 seconds cooldown, that you will not need it in this window of time. I would suggest for beginners to stick to a basic rotation at first, where you go in CA at the start of the fight to cap Might. Then, while your CA is still active, you look around and try to identify, will I need more heals from my CA in the next 5 seconds or so? If the answer is yes, then you probably want to keep it open. If the answer is no, then close it and put it on cooldown. How do I know if I got Might? In the background, you can see a basic example of a Might rotation. After this opener, you can keep track of Might and reapply it by using CA skills. The way I personally keep track of Might is by watching my CA cooldown after closing it. The Might from Crest of the Land lasts for 20 seconds, assuming you have 100% boon duration. And it takes roughly 5 seconds to cap to 25. So, whenever your CA comes off cooldown, you have about 10 seconds or so of wiggle room before you have to start stacking Might up again. Another way to do it would be to use a Spirit before going into CA to help you time it. Your type of healing is reactive, meaning that you do not prevent damage like a Firebrand or Chrono with Aegis or a Scourge with Barrier. You let the damage happen, then you heal. But that does not mean you cannot be proactive. The more you know about the encounter, the more comfortable you get with your healing kit and skills cooldown, the more you will be able to identify when a high pressure situation is coming and use your cooldowns accordingly. Keep in mind that while your CA is a big part of your healing kit, you still have a couple of burst heals outside of it. As you play more Druid and get more experience with both mechanics and phases, you will be able to line up your cooldowns better with it. I think a good boss to train is Veil Guardian, as you commonly out-heal the green circle mechanic, hitting for 80% of your maximum health and that spawn roughly every 15 seconds. Now onto the rest of your Druid kit. First, let's talk about spirits. These are your bread and butter utilities, and you use them all the time. They provide boons and offensive buffs. Use the active skills to summon them close, keeping them in range of the squad, and make sure to heal them every now and then. Sometimes you will need to drop a spirit to deal with a mechanic. To know which spirit is more fitting, you can check on the written guide. It has a neat section explaining you how to pick your spirits. Outside of CA, your weapon skills are important to generate Astral Force, but also they have a couple of healing bursts. Staff 3 is a nice burst heal by itself, but it is also a blast finisher. Using it in a weather field, such as Staff 5, will provide even more heal. Staff 5 also applies regen and blocks projectile. Warhorn 5, if traded, will provide regen to your subgroup only, and can be used as a blast finisher inside the weather field too. Finally, Staff 2 is a nice pulse heal around the targeted enemy. I mentioned regen a couple of times without explaining anything about it. Keeping regen is essential to counter the aura ticks from bosses, but also it makes sure that you keep on generating CI constantly. The easiest way to apply regen to everyone in your squad is to use Water Spirit. If you only need to apply it to your subgroup, Warhorn 5 and Staff 5 will be enough. So a few words about various topics. It's not about just Druid specifically, it's pretty much for every role and every content in Guild Wars 2. The combat system is really fluid and dynamic, allowing you to be mobile. Being properly positioned is really simple to understand, but it is really hard to achieve. It can be summed up in a few words by standing in damage bad, standing close together as a group, good, because the way boons are shared. In reality, very few people manage to position themselves properly, but as a druid, you should always pay close attention not only to where you stand, but also to where others stand. You want to avoid going down at all costs, since you are the healer, and standing out of incoming damage is a good start. Being aware of other people's position will also give you a global vision, and because you have access to so many ranged heal skills, you can easily heal people wandering off without having to move yourself from the main group. Food and utility are not optional. They are a huge part of your outgoing healing. Just do not skip on it. And please use the correct ones. Concentration utility is not the correct one, it is pretty much useless. Keeping your squad alive is good, but keeping everyone between 90 to 100% health is what you should aim for, because of traits and gear that are enabled above health thresholds. Your personal DPS does matter. It does not mean that you want to greed for personal DPS. Doing this will always result in a overall squad DPS loss. See the previous point about health threshold enabling gear and traits. But there is a difference between doing 1k cleave or 3k plus, and this is over 100% damage increase we're talking about. It can be easily achieved with small adjustments once you are more comfortable with your class. Finally, I want to make a small note about keeping people alive. You may be the best healer in the entire world. If someone stands in a damaging AoE, if they eat up mechanic, essentially, if they just face tank damage, they will eventually die, and it is not your fault. There's a limit to what you can heal, and while it might be hard at first to judge how much more you can do, it happens very often in less experienced group that DPS players have very poor awareness and tunnel vision on DPS rotation, ending up dying stupidly. So don't blame yourself for every death, but do try to think about what you could have done better. And with that, this video is coming to an end. I hope this will help and encourage you to learn Druid. Let me know what you think of this guide. If you feel like there's too much or too little, don't hesitate to also give me suggestions on what you would like to see in future videos. A huge thanks to all of these people: Goldie, Eleanor, Westet, Cornelie, Ada, Nazel, and Alex for the feedback provided that helped me a lot making this video. And thanks to you for watching.